Welcome to the Joplin and Andrea podcast. It's been about 6 months since we've been at the podcast desk, but we are back. We've got a great show for you. Thanks for listening. Let's get straight to it.
Well, guys, it's been a while since we've been here, but we're back. We're super pumped, and we're ready to be here with you.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. So Andrea and I have had a lot going on. Thank God it's all been awesome stuff. But as many of you know that follow us, we have been in the middle of a transition at our church.
Yes.
We've relocated, not far, about a mile and a half from where we used to be, but to a much better and larger facility.
Yes.
And it's been awesome, man. No complaints. Thank God for the new space. It's a beautiful, beautiful space, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's been a lot of work.
Yep.
And good work. I'm not complaining, but just
But
kind of.
that's where we've been the last.
That's
several
where we've
months,
been, yeah.
So.
And so we've had some discussions about, hey, do we want to keep doing this? Is this something we want to, that's important enough to stay at it? And we've decided that, hey, we're going to start it back up. Release a podcast the last Friday of every month. And so here we are again. And
Here we are.
Yeah, what do we can talk about today?
We're back. All right. Well, one of the hot topics for today is alligators, because you and I had the opportunity to encounter up close alligators this last couple weeks.
We did.
Yeah, we did. Still scary as ever.
Andrea and I went to Miami to get away for a week, 5 days, left on a Monday, came home on a Friday. And while we were there, one of the things we did was toured the Everglades.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, awesome experience. But before we get to the alligators, they also had massive python there.
A huge one.
And we learned that they have an invasive situation going on where the pythons have killed like 95% of mammal life in the Everglades. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
The state of Florida is paying people $50 per foot if you will catch pythons and bring them in. And so
I still said no thanks.
Yeah, we talked about, if there was any chance of us hunting some pythons to try to peg for the trip.
Yeah, the tour
negative.
guide was like $3,000 doesn't sound good, and I thought, no.
They had one there in captivity that was I want to say 17 feet. It weighed 150 pounds.
Pretty much larger than life.
And it showed up. They captured it in their parking lot. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we were at. And so anyways, yeah, we got to see some gators. That was a lot of fun. Andrea, tell us a little bit about what that was like. The Everglades tour. Would you do it again?
Yeah, so it was actually a lot of fun. I was thinking originally when we signed up for it that I was scared for my life. But it was fun. It was actually a lot of fun. We did get an encounter up close and personal, a couple gators. I even touched one. That was a big deal.
Yeah, so this is true.
I touched one.
Hold on, though. They might not understand what you're saying.
No, they do. I touched one. All I did was just
But not one that was like out in the water next to the boat.
Okay.
This was a little baby that they had at the, where the presentation where they tell us what we're about to do. They pulled out a little baby gator.
Okay, this is accurate, but I did still touch it.
Yeah, and Andrea touched it. So very, very impressed there. She did touch a baby alligator, but not like one of the, we saw about a 10 or 11 footer out in the wild.
Yeah.
And no, she didn't touch that one. But anyways, what did you think of that boating trip?
It was cool.
Did you like it?
It was actually really cool. I was really, really scared because I just was not thinking. I'm thinking, what if we capsize? What if we don't get to come back? What if we start taking on water? But the boat ride was really fun. Those airboats are really cool. They can just glide right across the water, and it was very informational, which I thought was really, really neat. It was really informational, and then we saw some alligators and. Thankfully, they didn't really. They seemed full.
Yeah, they did.
They did. They seemed full.
They didn't seem like they were coming after us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I gave Andrea the outside seat
He did.
so that she would have the best view.
Was it though?
That was it.
Yeah.
She had the best view. I'm like, if we're going to go on this thing, my honey is going to have the best view of anybody
okay.
out here. And so when we got in, I made sure she had the outside seat and she was closest to the outside of the boat.
Now, see, what I was told before we left by a good friend was, Andrea, just remember, you just have to outrun one person.
Yeah.
And so was I that one person for you? You're just going to like, here's a safety card for me.
Hey, there ain't no outrunning anything out in the middle of the Everglades. That thing is miles of water and weeds.
Okay.
I mean, anybody gets out of the boat, you're ending up a little snack for
But you
gator.
just, one snack would do. The rest of the people might be okay. No, in all seriousness, no, it was really fun. We had a great time, and I would do it again. I'd like to take our kids sometime. It was fun.
Same. Yeah, I would do it again. Highly recommend it. If you're ever down in southern Florida, you need to do an Everglades tour. Totally worth it.
Yes. Yep. Super great. So.
And it wasn't real expensive either. They have private tours that are longer that might be fun if you had a big group to split up. But I think it was like $29 a person. It wasn't very expensive. And it was an hour long, 50 minutes long. And that was the boat portion of it, was 50 minutes. You get a pet, a gator. You get to see a 17-foot snake. You get to go out in the wild and see alligators in the wild. Totally worth it for $30 a person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
So that's been happening. We've relocated churches.
And if you're in the area and you haven't checked it out, come check it out because the new church is awesome.
Yes.
It is. It's just amazing. God's really blessed us and it's cool. So we invite everybody. Everybody can come by.
So what's our major topic for the day?
And the major topic for today is confidence. That confidence is key, and we're just going to be talking about why it's important. Maybe some areas you can improve if you struggle with confidence, and what the Bible has to say about it. So let's talk about why confidence is needed.
Am I starting?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Confidence is needed because when we lack confidence, we tend to make poor decisions. And I think there's a lot of ways we make poor decisions. Sometimes, especially when you're younger and peer pressure is a real thing. If you're lacking confidence, sometimes you're going to do some things that you would rather not do or have convictions against, all because you think it's important to be part of a certain people group or friend group. People that chronically deal with lack of confidence are going to, over time, battle, depression and other mental and emotional strongholds. And so, confidence is important. Having a degree of self-confidence. I think I'm assuming before this is done, we're going to kind of establish what that means. But I think the lack of confidence can be a dangerous thing, cause us to make poor decisions, all in the banner of trying to be accepted.
Yes, I agree with that. I think it's much needed, and I think sometimes it's maybe a little piece that we overlook sometimes. And if we could just fix the areas that we need fixed in, it would make a world of difference in a few departments in life. So let's see. Let's talk about some different ways that if we're struggling with confidence, that maybe we can improve.
Well, this is a pretty deep theological conversation that's hard to probably do in a podcast, unless we were going to take a lot of time. And our format is not a lot of time. We could change our format if we want. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's go for a long time.
Okay. Then we'll talk about this. So there's not a great way to improve self-confidence without learning who your true self is. So the lack of self-confidence really comes from not knowing who I am and not having a degree of appreciation and gratitude for who I am. And the question is, how do we improve that? And I would say it's very difficult to improve it correctly. And for the long term, let me rephrase that. It's impossible to improve it correctly and for the long term without really starting to understand who I am according to God. From the very beginning of time, one of the first attacks that we see is in the book of Genesis. We see the story of Satan tempting Eve to not trust God. And one of the things that he does is challenge the identity that God said was hers. And he tries to appeal to a inner nature to want more. And he basically says, hey, you're not really who you think you are. God's been lying to you all along. And if you really knew who you were, you would become God. You can know what he knows, you can be what he's like, and that's why God has said not to eat of the fruit, because he knows that if you do, you'll become like him. And in a oversimplification of what happened, Eve forgot who she was, didn't trust in her God-given design, and got outside of that. And then all of a sudden we have this great calamity that follows, and one of the first things that happens is shame. Her and Adam are hiding themselves from God. And so the point I'm making here is that from the beginning of recorded time, the history that we have of mankind, one of the problems that happens when we have self-confidence issues, when we are insecure in who we are, is that we lose sight of God's design for us and we don't embrace that design. And so how can you improve that? There is no real way to improve it without understanding who I am. What is my identity in Christ? And the identity of us as people has been under attack since, like I mentioned, since day one. Now, what I'm telling you is true, not just for the Christian. So I would say the Christian has a much obviously heightened awareness of God's design for his or her life. But all of mankind has been created according to God and God's will. So there is a design God has for men. There is a design that God has for women. There is a design that God has for the home. And regardless of whether a person believes in the God who made that design, they could be totally blinded to the reality of God. It doesn't change the fact that there is a design for their life. And so we see it in our day and time, where you've got women trying to be men and men trying to be women. It doesn't work. It looks stupid, but it doesn't work. And it's a picture of what happens when you lose your identity. And so for us to have a sense of confidence, the first thing we've got to do is understand who we are and be willing to believe in that and embrace that and be thankful for who we are. I think
that's good.
That's the number one thing that keeps people from living a confident life, is simply not having a real awareness of who they are and what their God-given role is. Mm-hmm. So what about you? How can we improve confidence?
I think what you said was amazing, because it does all boil back to identification in Christ, and then being able to stand on that. Ways that we can improve are identifying, the areas that we lack confidence in, and then figuring out why, and then remembering in those moments of struggle, or those moments where maybe we just decide we want to give up because we're just unsure of ourselves, being able to reflect back on the confidence that there is in Christ, and back on the reminder that actually I can do this, and I was designed for this. And I think another good thing that would be very beneficial as well is finding people that believe in you and can encourage and help that confidence. I know just, from things in the past that I've experienced when I was younger, you do something little and maybe everybody laughs at you. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something you weren't really sure about doing in the first place, and all of a sudden you want to give up on it. And so being able to have a crowd around you that can stand up and laugh with you, but also say, hey, but that was actually really good. You keep going, you'll get better and better and better. So mm-hmm. being able to have a team of people, but ultimately I agree. Falling back on Christ. So.
Yeah, and you want your team of people to push you in that same direction,
Yeah.
right? Yes, it's about understanding God's will for your life, but we come to understand those things often by having the right team of people around us. Mm-hmm. In God's design, that team is going to be primarily the home, but a lot of us and a lot of people don't have a home where the team function of the home is a mother and a father and siblings that are pushing you towards Christ. And so you end up needing, a team of others that can help with that. But yeah, I mean, it is all about understanding God's given role for your life, but you can't just stumble upon that.
Right.
It's God designed. Let's talk about God's design. God designed it to be taught. And when I mentioned, you don't have to be a Christian for these principles to be true. An example of that is like with men, right? God designed men to be protectors, to be providers. And so even just those two aspects of manhood, if a boy is not taught growing up any degree of how to protect, how to use his hands, how to, in the event that he's in a scuffle or a fight, whatever you want to call it, if he has no understanding of how to shoot a gun, how to protect his home, how to protect his wife and kids when he grows up to be a man, there's going to be a lack of confidence there. And men primarily are designed to be providers. And so if I, as a man, I'm not providing for my home, in fact, the Bible says the man that does not eat or that does not work should not eat. And so we see that the primary responsibility to provide for the home falls on the man. If I am not taught these things growing up, if they're not modeled for me growing up, all of a sudden I'm a 16, 17-year-old boy trying to become a young man, and I'm lost. I don't know what the purpose of my manhood is. And actually what it does with men, with boys, it tends to drive them to be angry. And so I think it's one of the reasons we see kind of a pandemic of violence amongst, a lot of schools, the heightened, school shootings over the last 20 years, the occasional mobs that you see of young men out just doing senseless acts of vandalism and violence. And the thing is they don't know who they are, and they lack confidence. They lack purpose, and they're trying to find it because nobody taught them. Nobody showed them the way. And so very important to have a team, very important to have people in your life. And I will just say there is a God-given need and responsibility on men of God to really step up right now and find a way to help and mentor. Same true with women and young ladies of God. I tend to think in the context of men, right? Because I'm a man. Mm-hmm. But it's true both ways. In a society where so many kids are being raised now without parents helping form them correctly, a lot of kids are left to themselves or left to the screen. We've got screens that are raising children now, and it's just a disaster. If there was ever a time that the few of us need to step up and be proactive about reaching out to some of this younger generation and helping them with these confidence issues by helping them understand that there's a design for who you are and here's what that design looks like. The time is now. Yeah. Incredibly important now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I thought it might be fun to just maybe share a time that you could think of where maybe you were struggling with confidence. I can share one too, where, really came through and surprised ourselves, or maybe had God just really give you the empowerment or something like that. So do you have a time that you can share?
I'm going to think on that.
Okay.
And then so you go first.
Okay. So if you know me well, I like to have a lot of fun, and I can play games and I can perform on a stage and do funny things all day long if you give me some props. But a lot of times if you want me to be serious or you want me to come do something, to that nature, my confidence level is not quite as great in that department. And this is actually more turning serious here, but I had somebody one time ask me to sing a song for a funeral, and I was not quite sure about that because I just, it was an emotional time anyway. It was just a unique situation, and I thought, oh gosh, I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to pull that off. I'm probably going to forget the words, or what if I start crying, or something like that. And I just remember really just praying and asking God to give me the confidence that I needed to do it. But that's probably one of the most times I've struggled. And I was just amazed how I was able to kind of turn it over and just give it to God and trust that it was going to work, but confidently got through singing a song during a funeral, and I didn't forget the words or, fall apart or
I remember
anything,
that.
so.
I know what funeral you're talking about. I know what song you're talking about. And you did a fantastic job. Yeah, you did a great job with it.
I was like a moment I really, really I wasn't sure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I know that moment. Several years ago. Many years, maybe 10 or more, something like that. It's been a while, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example. For me, I think that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to pinpoint a specific
because you're pretty confident
situation. So she says, because I'm pretty confident. So actually, I can point to a season of my life, and that this is what I'm about to say is true for a whole lot of men. I didn't have all that stuff growing up that I just talked about. I didn't have the right team. I didn't have anybody really teaching me how to be a man. I didn't have anybody teaching me that I was even supposed to be a protector and a provider, and what it meant to be the lead, certainly not the spiritual leader of my home, what it meant to be a man of God. I didn't have any of that. And, we had a radical salvation story where God changed our lives. I was 20, you were 18. And our lives were radically changed, but it's not like somehow all of a sudden you just know how to be a woman of God or a man of God. All I knew was I wanted to be a man of God, right? But I didn't know how. And so what I ended up doing is what a lot of men do for many years. I would say in my life somewhere between 7 to 9 years, where honestly I was not very confident in who I was as a man, as a person, and I overcompensated for that by appearing confident. And if this makes sense, I actually even believed my own facade. Like I did have a confidence about me, but there were some indicators it was a false confidence, because if I got attacked by somebody, my initial instinct was off with their head. If I felt like someone in our ministry was a threat to us or didn't agree with me about something, my initial instinct was, let's find a way to get them out the door, because they're a threat to us. And I would come across kind of with that real hard, tough guy mentality because it scared people off, and I felt like it kept people from being able to attack me. But really, that was just my insecurities. That was me not understanding a lot about who I am in Christ. Unfortunately, there was a handful of people I even wounded during that period of my life because I was just much harsher than I needed to be or should have been. And so I can look at a period of my life where I was really lacking confidence, but I didn't even know it.
Yeah, that's good.
I masked it by pretending I was super confident. That way, it reminds me of the analogy of the emperor has no clothes. And I was the emperor who looked super confident and like I had everything in control and feared nothing. But eventually I came to see that really, that was a straw man. And that when the big storms come, that guy blew away. And so it took me some time figuring out, like, what's going on in me? Why am I so insecure when I get attacked from a certain angle? And it took me learning. So here's the real brief story of how I came out of that. It took me learning that while my job is to be the protector of my home, God is the ultimate protector of me and therefore my family. And that it's not my job to destroy every single person or thing that I felt like could be a threat. And when I started to calm down from that, what I realized was 80% of the people in the church world that I saw as threats, they weren't threats at all. Half the people weren't even threatening me. They were just asking legitimate questions about things that they thought maybe we could do differently. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a threat. It was an honest question. And now that I started to see, like, I'm safe as a man because I belong to God. And so nothing's going to befall me that my Heavenly Father doesn't, at the very least, allow to happen. I'm not saying God causes all the bad things that we go through, but He's still sovereign and He's still in control. And so I don't have to stress out and freak out about every possible thing that could go wrong. Like, God is in control of our life. And I had to learn, like, as a man, what it meant to lean on God and trust in God for my safety and for our protection. I had to learn what it meant. Philippians 1:6 says to be confident that He who began a good work in you will accomplish that work.
Yes.
Like, God is going to finish what He started. And when I started to learn that, I realized I need to calm down a little bit and understand God's going to finish what He started regardless of what the enemy does or doesn't do. And so for me, I can't point to, maybe a specific time on the stage like you did. For me, it was a season of life where being insecure impacted me in a pretty negative way. And I dealt with it instead of the way, some guys deal with it this way. Mm-hmm. Generally, women deal with it this way more, where when they're not confident, they kind of recluse and they're kind of like shy. I dealt with it the opposite, where, and so that's how most men deal with it when they're not confident, is they try to be overconfident. Yep. And so that's a season of my life that, thank God, I'm out of now.
Yeah, it's good though. It's testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I just want to encourage you today, if you're struggling with confidence, find somebody who can help you, because there's people out there that can. There's people out there that believe in you and that can help you. And if you're somebody who maybe doesn't, find somebody who you can invest in, because there's people all around us that could definitely use some encouragement and some investing in this world that we live in. So
an encouraging word can go a long ways. Yep. You're never going to offend anybody building them up. Yeah. And so take the time to encourage people, build people up, help people in their confidence. Never is someone going to walk away angry or upset with you because you took the time to try to boost their confidence. So let's be confidence boosters. Yep. Confidence boosters. I like that. All right. Well, next up on the docket is fun facts. So since summer's here, I have a couple fun facts that I was wanting to share about summer. So first one is, did you know that lemons float but limes sink? No, I did not know that. I'm not actually sure I believe that. Well, we might have to try it. Where did you get that fact? Well, the World Web. Okay. It has to be true. I should have known. Okay. And then the next is that I want to test that right now. We don't have we don't have limes, the stuff. We just don't have lemons. What does it say floats? The limes float. Limes sink. Limes sink. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to just let you continue to talk a little bit here while I'm going to go get one. Where are the limes at? They're in the corner over there by the coffee pot. We're about to see this in real time, folks. Okay. In real time, we're going to see. Okay. Well, while he's figuring that out, the next thing is that the heat in the warmer months causes the iron in France's Eiffel Tower to expand, and the iron actually expands 6 inches. So that's kind of crazy.
they say that it expands 6 inches. So that would be interesting if you actually in real time were like measuring that. So that's a fun fact. And then our last fun fact is that popsicles were made by accident in 1905 when a young boy from San Francisco left his soda outside overnight, and the next morning it was frozen. So shout it out to that little boy for accidentally leaving his soda outside and creating popsicles. So
no kidding.
No kidding. Yep.
What, did you say 1906?
1905. Yeah.
Wow. So we
Yep.
had to go back like 120 years in time to find something good to say about San Francisco.
Yep. Oh, well, yeah. Yep. So that's our
San
fun
Francisco,
facts.
that is the last good thing you did for humanity.
Did you hear what I said about the Eiffel Tower?
I did.
In warm temps, it expands.
I did,
That's
yeah.
pretty crazy.
All right, so this
All right,
I've got
let's see.
a
Let's
lime
see.
here.
All right.
This thing is supposed to sink.
It's supposed to sink. Lime's floating.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, look at that.
Huh.
World Wide Web does
Well,
know.
so that part is true. I wish I had a lemon here so bad, but I don't. But we can verify that the lime
lime's
just
accurate.
sunk.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Good-
real
good
time.
fun fact, Andrea.
We did
This is
figure
gonna
that
come
out.
in handy. I mean, there's a lot of times in my life I've needed this knowledge,
Yes. Yep.
and now that I have it, I just can't think
You want a
of
fun little science experiment for your kids over the summer. There you go.
how helpful that's going to be in the future to know that.
Yes, you're right.
Awesome, great fun fact.
Yes. All right. Well, next up is missions talk. So, as you know, we always have all kinds of mission stuff going on. And we have a new exciting thing going on in the Philippines that we just had a team member come back from. And I'll let you share a little bit about our Manila.
Yeah, we've launched a new branch, Extra Mile Missions, which Andrea and I founded. We've got a new branch that we just launched in Manila. Very excited about that. Chad Davis, his friend of ours who came to us with just a passion for what's going on there. He's connected with Dan Kaba, who is the founding pastor of Open Door Ministries there. And anyways, awesome work. We
Lots
sent
of
Chad
things
over
going on there.
to just go take a look at it so that we could kind of get our minds wrapped around what are the needs and how do we start meeting them. And what an incredible trip. Chad come back fired up,
Yeah.
and we're excited to see what can go on in the future there.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
a
so
lot, they're
pumped
doing a
about
lot
that.
of great things, from helping kids off the street. The church literally has a handful of kids living at the church that they are helping with. I mean, the
Feeding
kids
and-
live there.
uh-huh.
They took them in. And it's basically a real deal miniature orphanage where there's like 4 or 5 boys that are living there until they get old enough to go out on their own.
Yeah. They
the-
teach in the schools.
They teach in the
every single day.
schools,
Yeah.
public schools,
Yeah.
like something like 3,000. It might be 8,000. I hate to exaggerate, but I'm thinking 8,000 might have been the number. Total students a week that they're allowed to go into
Yeah,
all
that's a big
the
number.
public schools in the Manila area that they can get to, and they're teaching there. It's fantastic. It's amazing.
Yes.
They've got ministry to homeless. They've got several mission church plants.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's overwhelming all that they're doing, and I don't want to overwhelm you with all that information today. All I'll tell you is very excited about the door that God's opened up for us in Manila. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes, it's awesome. Next, just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on Byron. He's the young boy that is from Honduras that had the mass growing on his side, and he ended up having surgery and had it removed. There was concern about it, that it could possibly be cancerous. He's actually went back and forth a couple different times to San Pedro Sula, the bigger city, to have some testing done, and they think right now everything's okay, but they're still kind of in the midst of testing. So we want to continue to pray for Byron, but he did have his mass removed, and the mom said that he's feeling a lot better. So that all by itself was great. He was not doing he was not doing very good. So a little update on him. And then we have a young girl in one of our villages. Her name's Jasmine, and Jasmine's tear ducts don't work. So she never has any kind of fluid when she can't blink her eyes like, the rest of us can and clear them out. And so she needs a procedure done. And this last week, she actually got to go do all the preliminary things to get her surgery started. So we're really excited for that. That's a huge deal in Honduras.
Yeah.
A huge deal.
Yeah, big deal.
A huge deal. And so I know the mom was just like beside herself that we were able to even help her daughter get glasses, let alone maybe help with this problem that she's had. So keep Jasmine in your prayers. And then another fun thing is we were able to purchase a sonogram machine to take with us back and forth on our medical missions. And so this summer we're going to put that into full practice, and we have our own machine. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah.
Super
fantastic.
Super excited.
We were able to borrow a machine a while back and take it over with us. It was a fantastic experiment. It was much needed. And afterwards, we were like, yeah, we want this. And it's taken us a little bit of time to raise the funds, but we finally hit the goal. We were able to make the purchase, and it's in our possession.
Yeah. So this summer.
Very excited to have our own personal portable sonogram machine. Pretty cool.
So it was really awesome. And then lastly, just wanted to give you all an update that in March, we were actually able to add several more students to our program. So in January, February, when we update all of our backpacks and profiles, that's when kids get to add to the program if they would like to add for the year. And so we had some new students that wanted to add, and we are super pumped that there are some more kids on our site available. So if you're interested in sponsoring a kid, you can check out our website, extramilemissions.org, and you can see the new faces that are up and available for sponsorship. So we are very excited about all things missions.
Yes. And I will close this. Are we done?
We're done.
We're done. Okay. I'll close this out with this, just kind of a plea for help and why we're doing our podcast, continuing to do it. So first of all, so excited to hear these things going on. And when we talk about, surgeries and the medical stuff that we're doing, always in every scenario, we are covering the expenses. Mm-hmm. Some of the procedures in some instances are covered by the doctors that are doing them in some instances. Most of the times, that's not the case. It just kind of depends. But anytime there's any expense, we're covering that as a mission organization. We're doing the communication with the doctors and setting up these meetings and these doctor appointments for
and
the
transportation
kids.
Because it's never in the city that they're happening.
We're doing transportation to and from. We're doing follow-up. It's really a turnkey deal for families and children that simply would never have the opportunity to have these things met medically without the help. We could not do that without the support of our donors. I mean, that's who does it. So those of you who have donated to the organization over the years, this is just one of those pieces, but it is something that 100% is happening because of your guys' support. And one of the things that's important to us when we had the real conversation, Andrea and I aren't just sitting around twiddling our thumbs looking for things to do. The question is the podcast something we should be doing on a regular basis, something we should commit to? Is it actually helping people? And for me, I measure that two ways. Number one, do we hear back from our listeners that the things that we're discussing are encouraging to them? Are we helping you in any way when you listen in? And for me, bringing a smile to your face and reminding you that life is not always heavy and that it's going to be okay, and you just getting a little bit of kind of shot in the arm even to keep going, that's a win for me. But if I don't know that's happening, if we don't know that's happening, there's no way for us to measure, is this mattering to people that listen? And so when we hear back from you guys, and we hear back from a handful of people, mm-hmm. It's very helpful for us, and it encourages us to know this is not a waste of time. This matters. The other thing that I do when I look at measuring the value of this podcast is there any additional support that comes in to these things, our medical missions, to our ministry in globally, just at Extra Mile Missions. And so I want to encourage you, if you're able to support the work of Extra Mile Missions, to do so. Pray about it. Whether it's a one-time gift, whether you want to join the ministry as a partner at any level, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever the Lord leads, come alongside us and join us in the mission and say, I want to play a small part in something big that God is doing. And for me, if we can see that one of those two things is at least happening, or both of those things are happening, for us, it's all worth it. We're willing to continue to put in the work, to put in the time, to do all it takes to put on the podcast and edit it and get it out there for, users to listen to and watch. And so if you believe in what we're doing, we're not asking you to support us, but let us know that you're being helped, and consider supporting the ministry of Extra Mile Missions. And for us, it makes it all worth it.
That's right. Yep.
ExtraMileMissions.org. If you don't have the Extra Mile Missions app, you can download it. Just search Extra Mile Missions in any app store. That's also a great way for, if you're interested in our mission stuff, to get communications from us a little more frequently. Yep. We post through the app when there are specific needs that need met. And so if maybe you're like, hey, I would just like to know the next time there's a medical mission need, a kid that's got a surgery that needs funded, well, download the app. And when we send out a notification when that happens, you'll get the notification and have the opportunity to participate.
Yep. You can find all of our kids there that need sponsored, and you can find all of our upcoming trips. So everything's there.
Yes. Join us on a mission trip sometime. I meant to say that too. We'll talk about mission trips another time.
Yep.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Hope that you've enjoyed our show. The first one back now in 6 months. I think
That's
6
right.
months, thereabout.
Wow.
And we'll see you
until
next
December.
month, the last Friday of June.
Yeah.
Until then, God bless.
See you later.